and Technology. In studio with me is Ms. Sylvia Batty, and she'll be joined by Dr. Miguel De Paz and Dr. Filberto Penaros via Zoom. I understand. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, you look kind of bright after the long weekend. I mean, you stayed home and studied all weekend.
Nice, restful weekend for a lot of people. Everybody who wasn't at Agric.
Right. Did you go?
Yes, Galen University was out there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Both days. Yes.
How was it?
Yes. It was good. Good crowd, good engagement. You know, we had hooping with harpy, and a harpy pinata, baby harpy giveaway. So we tried to always have fun and engaging opportunities to be able to give our message across for Galen University.
You were there at the booth?
Yes, we were.
What's the first, or what's the most often question you hear when somebody walks into your booth? Because these are people who are not thinking of buying a phone or looking at the bull. They are thinking, I think, about their future.
Yes.
Basically,
absolutely.
right?
Yes.
You know.
So for them, a lot of the questions is, what programs do you have to offer? That is first and foremost, because a lot of people hear Galen University, but maybe perhaps they're not aware of how many degree programs we do have to offer. A lot of people are interested in the modality, sort of how they can learn. A lot of people just have more questions. Financing is always a big question as well, and that is true for sort of any university. You know, we get the fact that you have a degree program, but how can I go ahead and, you know, ensure that I can cover the costs of my degree? And then, of course, they want to know about campuses. They want to know what the student life is like at Galen University.
Okay. If I said you have a specific age group that comes, would I be right?
In terms of a specific age group, no. We're very broad. So we have students.
So you have people from most ages,
most ages.
Beginners, intermediaries,
yes.
you know.
Yes. Yeah. And it definitely depends on what people are studying. So within the education faculty, we have a lot of people who are principals, a lot of people who are teachers. So we have very few people who are straight out of high school within that faculty.
Interesting.
But in the Faculty of Arts, Science and Technology, for example, you have definitely a mix of it. Our criminal justice program started out with a lot of law enforcement officers, police officers, people already working in our justice system. And then what we found was that we had a lot of people from high school that were signing up to that degree program. Similarly with our vet tech program, this is usually people who are already sort of maybe working along with vets, but they want to go that step beyond and certify. People who are working at the zoos, people who are working at the wildlife clinics. So we have really good partnerships with those entities, and that means that, you know, we get to meet a lot of really amazing individuals who are working in their fields and maybe do not have that further degree. And so you have that age range mix for sure.
Of course, financing is, like you mentioned, will be an important consideration. You mentioned police officers, you mentioned people who are already working.
Yes.
What's the balance when it comes to a lot of these people paying for their own education as opposed to getting assistance from either the company or the ministry or the department, or, you know, like the police, for instance? So do they support a lot of their officers studying?
So right now, like, Galen is very, very, very flexible when it comes to financing. So we've got a really, really good partnership with DFC in terms of if people want to finance on their own. We do have different entities, depending on whether that's the public service or private sector, who do support the education of their employees. But that can't be feasible for everybody. You can't do that for every person. Galen University also offers a variety of scholarships. Right now we have two of our what we could term as special scholarships open. We have a George Cadle Price Scholarship, which is for a public servant, and that has been offered through the ministry. And then we have the Dame Anita Gordon Scholarship that's open, and that is being offered for a educator or a teacher that is pursuing their bachelor's degree or their certificate in teaching and education.
Did you get the interest you were hoping for at the at the Agric?
Absolutely. Agric is always one of those prime locations where we actually have persons come out, persons who are interested in our degree programs or at least want to make that first step, take that first step toward their education and start that conversation with Galen University.
That is nice. Galen is getting a really good reputation and consideration by persons who want to further their education.
Thank you so
knowing
much.
that it's valuable. When you get a degree, it's valuable. It has far-reaching effect.
Absolutely.
Because you are also credited or linked to other universities abroad, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. So with your Galen degree, we like to say that our eagles soar locally, regionally, and internationally. So we do have opportunities for that student exchange that occur abroad. A lot of our students either continue their studies in Taiwan, a lot of them apply for scholarships in the UK, in the US, in Canada. Those are the more popular countries, and they do get funding. Our students, every year, we see them after graduation in these other countries. That is also a service that Galen University provides, so being able to work through our success program to help students to apply for these scholarships. And so with a Galen degree, you have that opportunity to take your education a step beyond internationally, if that is your choice.
You personally, did you pursue any of your degrees at Galen?
Yes, I did. So I have a background in archaeology and anthropology, actually, and so my first degree is actually at Galen University. Yeah, I did the archaeology and anthropology degree there, and I won't say how long ago.
Can't be that long ago, I'm sure. So tell us about that. What's the program like? Well, we want to talk about art, science, and technology. As I said, your colleagues should be joining us via Zoom. But again, if they're having issues with power, they may not be able to log on. But I do hope they can still get there. I know our technician here our side is on, but if they can't, if they are not getting, if they weren't prepared for this, you know, it's sometimes like I have a laptop at home, but I have to connect it to the wall.
Yes.
You know, so it's for it to work.
Yeah.
But you're here, and tell us a bit about that whole Faculty of Arts, Science, and Technology at Galen.
Well, the Arts, Science, and Technology department looks a little bit different from when I was there. Our flagship, or one of our flagship degree programs within that faculty at its inception when it started out was the Archaeology and Anthropology program that was started by Dr. Jaime Awe. And a lot of people who were at the Department of Archaeology or Institute of Archaeology were actually involved. Well, not trained there, but involved in the formation of it. So we know that there are a lot of archaeological resources across the country. There's Cajalpet, there's Shanantonich, there's Lamanai. And one of the questions that I used to always get is, you know, who is the person doing research at these sites? Who are those people, quotes unquote, excavating or digging up that site? And I think at the inception, what was Jaime's goal and Dr. John Morris's goal was to have local Belizeans empowered to be able to be the ones who are at these sites, who are excavating, and who are really at the forefront of telling your own story, telling your own history. And so the Archaeology and Anthropology degree program was founded at Galen University. It is the only archaeology program in our country to date. It has been in existence for close to 12, 15 years. So it is a long-standing program. A lot of our graduates have gone on to do further degree studies. They work in Belize, they work outside of Belize. A lot of them work at the National Institute of Culture and History. And so we really are proud of our archaeology and anthropology program. And that is a program that still continues. So we are accepting new students. And we do still continue those partnerships with Niche, and also to ensure that our Belizean students are out there and they're the ones excavating, but also that they have that background knowledge to be able to do more with what comes out of the ground.
As far back as I can remember, and I've been here a long time, we've always had foreigners, and whenever we refer to any of our big sites, archaeological sites, always a foreigner who, either came to pay the first visit or discovered, like we talk, the famous skull or anything that's discovered is by foreigners.
Yes.
How is that changing a lot? Is that we have more Belizeans now doing these things?
It is changing, and Galen University is at the forefront of that change. So there was a moment when last year we had maybe 4 graduates from our anthropology program, and all of them are employed at the National Institute of Culture and History within the different organizations at NICH. So we have people at the Institute, well, at the Film Commission, at the Institute of Archaeology. So we do see that our Galen graduates are able to contribute positively to sort of that rewiring of who is telling our Belizean story, our Belizean history. And we see that they're able to contribute immediately as well, like right after graduation. And we're really proud of our graduates. We're really proud that we can say that is our Galen graduate working in this area. Yeah. And that when you look at the face of archaeology now, you see your local Belizean men and women, and you see that diversity, because archaeology is no longer a man's field anymore. Of our 4 anthropology graduates, all of them were women last year. And so we're seeing an increase in Belizeans taking on this degree program, and also an increase in women taking on this degree program.
Is there more to discover in Belize, in archaeology? I mean, have all our sites been explored and dug up, or we have more to go?
Always more to discover.
More to go, right?
Absolutely. If you ask me how much, I would say maybe a 10% of what we have, or the archaeological resources that we have in Belize, have been uncovered. And that's one of the things on land. And really and truly, when you think archaeology, you always think of the Maya time period.
True, yeah.
We don't really think of the British colonial time period. We don't think, okay, what resources we have underwater, for example. Because if you say that Belize was colonized primarily by British persons who came here by sea, where they were in shipwrecks, what are the archaeological resources underwater? So there is so much of our history that is yet to be told. And when it comes to our history, when it comes to those narratives of our country, all of that is retold, that is reinterpreted, and there are many different fields. We think of archaeology, but we don't often think of the museums, for example. So you take this thing out of the ground, but what story do you tell with it? How do people engage with that? How can they see that? How can they access that beyond, going to an archaeological site? Now there's such things as digital museums. Now there are exhibits that are online or in person. If you don't go to Her Majesty's Prison up in Garba Lane and you're all the way from PG, you still have the ability to access this. And again, very importantly, having these stories being told by Belizeans and also by people of different generations, because what is interesting to maybe a 17 and 18-year-old is different to what is interesting to somebody that's 30, to somebody that's in their 40s or 50s. So have different generations being actively involved and engaged in telling these stories.
You just brought up something very interesting. I mean, how do you make the museum interesting to a 15-year-old?
How do you make it interesting to a 15-year-old?
What you have to put in there is like the oldest iPad, which was 15 years old. Then they might get interested. Oh, that old. For them, that old, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But something like a shard from a vase or I don't know, a bow tip or a arrow tip or whatever. How do you,
I think in my experience is not so much what you put in the museum, it's somehow the opportunities, the stories that you tell and the opportunities that you give people to engage and connect. And that really is what a museum is. It is a classroom in a way within a space. It doesn't have to be a building, it can be outdoors, but it is a classroom and it is a space that opens your mind and lets you wonder. How did these people live 10 years ago? How did these people live 100 years ago? What about 1,000 years ago? And if you allow people to maybe think and dream and wonder just a little bit, you make that connection and you have people have that interest. Whenever we talk about we have to go green and we have to recycle, I always ask people, how did your parents do it? Because plastic wasn't around.
No. No.
For people who
You
are in their
reuse?
50s, you
Automatically
reused, you had your
recycled.
glass bottle, you had your glass 5 bottle, your glass 5-gallon bottle. And if you go maybe 150 years old, all of those gourds that you used to have that carry water, sometimes it is a matter of making those connections and creating space to let wonder grow. And you know what I have found as well? That space for your imagination to grow is something that people of all age connect with. Sometimes you could have coloring sheets and you see people reach with their grandkids and they end up coloring longer than their grandkids, or they end up more interested longer than their children.
I know this is your fascination, anthropology, archaeology,
Yes.
and I know the answer to this already, but I'll ask you. Do you think we put enough importance in history and archaeology in our country to teach our kids? We always tell our kids we have to educate the next generation and so on. But we could do better with museums, couldn't we?
We could absolutely do better with museums, and I think it's because really and truly we don't have a culture of visiting museums in Belize.
Right. But we don't have them.
But we do have them. We do have the Museum of Belize, and they just recently launched a Museum of Belizean Art. There are also a lot of private museums. So there are a lot of, people who are collectors and then open up those spaces for museums. But I would say that people go to Agric or maybe to a lobster fest or a concert a lot more than they attend museums. But that is also something that changes and something that shifts, because I think once you step into a museum, that's a memory that stays with you, and that is something that you keep going back for more information. It's taking that first step that counts.
You might know this better than me, but do we have somewhere in the country, I don't know, Belmopan, where there is a warehouse full of artifacts and of our past that are stuck in that warehouse and are out here?
I'll do you one better. The Jadehead is in Belize, because that is the question that used to always come up.
Right.
Where are these archaeological resources? Where are all of these things that come out of the ground? And if they aren't all on display at the museum, then where are they? And what I will say is that the reason why it is so important to have Belizeans be at the forefront of those excavations, at the forefront of telling museum stories, at the forefront of archaeology, is so that we don't have to wonder those questions any further.
But that's the point I'm trying to get at. We should be storing those things. Those things should be out here, so I will get, we apparently have a small sampling of what we can really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Before it became illegal, I have a personal collection of old bottles. And over 100 years old, the clay, I have 2 or 3 of those, and the old bottles. And over this country, I know we have a lot of those things.
Yes.
You know what's impressive when I walk into our museum for a kid? To see 500 of these bottles lined up on shelves. That's amazing.
And what do they say? Belize City was built on mahogany chips and rum bottles.
Right.
Yes,
that's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
A couple of things with that. So it's actually not illegal to have that collection. It's just it has to be registered through the Institute of Archaeology, and that registration is free of cost. And in terms of sort of having those museum spaces to access, again, coming back to the anthropology program at Galen University, now moving up to our new campus, there is a plan to expand under the Faculty of Arts, Science and Technology the offerings with the anthropology program and have it more diversified to our different types of heritage, because it is not only our archaeological heritage, but it's also the stories of our tradition. It is the stories of what makes a Belizean a Belizean. Those intangible things that unite us. Right? Yes, that is where anthropology comes in.
That's the difference with archaeology.
Yes, between archaeology and anthropology, but it also has a different different applications across the different degree programs that are available in our Faculty of Arts, Science and Technology. For our criminal justice students, for example, who engage with anthropology classes, what are the laws surrounding archaeology and anthropology? For our computer science people, digital innovations or the digitizations of all of these fields are at the forefront. And so within our FAST programs, we have computer science, we have criminal justice, that's one of our bigger degree programs. We have an environmental science degree. And we do have a associate's degree that will now be moved up to a bachelor's in veterinary sciences. So you can get a degree and become a veterinary technician at Galen University. And then lastly, we have a diploma program through the IOM. So we do engage in migration studies as well. And within the FAST faculty, we also have a couple master degree programs. So we've just launched a Master of Social Work. We're very proud of that program, and it sort of ties in with the offerings from the Criminal Justice Criminal Justice Program. It's focused on a lot of restorative justice and looking at sort of women's or gender-based studies. And then we do have a Master of Development Studies as well within our Art, Science and Technology program. And so you can really see how our degrees have expanded within that faculty, but also expanded to speak about our relevance. Yes.
To the country.
Yes, absolutely.
Where does the art fit in?
Where does the art fit in? Well, an archaeology degree actually can be an arts degree. And an anthropology degree can be an arts degree. I
thought art was acting and singing and, writing poems and painting.
No, it is an arts
degree.
Than
that, right?
Yeah, but if you're in the side of the faculty where you take out test tubes and you test chemical signatures and sort of that aspect of archaeology, then it becomes a science degree. So it sort of depends on what area you want to focus on. But when it comes to the arts portion of it as well, we do have wonderful partnerships with the Film Commission. And within the FAST faculty, we have our English, our literature, our writing courses, and so it comes from the written form of art as well.
How do I mix them? Like, all you told me are very interesting. Can I do a degree with a mix of all of them? Like, I don't know, get some art, some science, some technology in the package?
You could absolutely do that. Within our criminal justice program, for example, you do have art electives that you have to take. That can be anything from our mural programs. So if you go around San Ignacio, some of the nicer murals downtown actually come from Galen University and our art mural classes. If you are more of a person that's set on living behind their screen, we do have digital art components that you can take. If you are more a person who is into writing, into that creative artistic expression through written form, then there are art and literature classes that you can take in terms of that art. And in terms of the sciences, so we do have within the criminal justice program and within the anthropology program, good partnerships with the forensic department. So we look at forensic anthropology. We look at, what happens to bodies when they are out in humid areas and how do the taphonomic processes that may affect it. And that is important for criminal justice students, but it can also inform the archaeological remains for our archaeology students. And so in a given class, for example, you might have people who have an interest in archaeology, you might have people who have an interest in criminal justice, and they're all learning together. What we also do for our anthropology program is that we have it as a core requirement for our different, an anthropology class is a core requirement for different degree programs, because if you are working with people, if you are in a public facing field, then it serves you to understand how people think, how people make decisions, how they learn, and how their culture impacts their decisions. And so that is covered under our cultural anthropology class, and people from business backgrounds, people from criminal justice, environmental science, they all have to take that as a foundational course. One of our foundational courses is also sustainable development. So in our core values, Galen has an ear towards sustainability, and we don't only pay lip service to that. So it is a core requirement that students have to take a class within sustainable development so that they understand sort of the climatic changes that are occurring, so that they understand the impact that that can have on different areas, and so that we can speak toward that within our degree programs.
Very, very interesting. Any of our archaeologists and anthropologists working or doing, I don't call them expeditions or digging somewhere outside of Belize?
Outside of Belize, we have one of our Galen graduates who's pursuing a master degree program currently. So whether they are doing archaeological investigations out there.
On the site, huh?
But yes, we have a couple who are getting their degrees abroad, and then we have, there's a wealth of places. I just saw on the news that there were human remains found at San Pedro, and they noted them to be quotes unquote calcified. Usually when they are calcified, quotes unquote, human remains, it means that it's probably something from an archeological time period. And
really?
so, yes.
When did this happen?
It was last week on the news, some like Breaking Belize News or something like that. Out in San Pedro, and that the police were calling. And that does happen when you work in archaeology. Sometimes, you know, you realize there's nothing like a pint bottle or clothes or something like that. And then you sort of think, okay, then this might be an archaeological context. And you never know what's under the ground, you know. Sometimes it might be just a couple pieces, and sometimes it might be an entire house or an entire village. So there's a lot more to discover.
And you're so right. You need to get around it.
Yes.
And a little bit of everything.
Yes. And
you know, just watching a movie last night where the detective needed to know about the cultural cults that handle demonic practices, and you only get that through like anthropology, you said, or studying history and things like that. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even with our vet tech program, so Galen University is really proud of our vet tech program. We have great partnerships with the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, with the Belize Zoo, with Dr. DePaz, who unfortunately couldn't join us this morning, it seems. But within that program, you do get to deal with a lot of sort of animal health, animal care. There are a lot of visiting professionals that come down. It is a 2-year degree program, and so you do get certified through the association in Belize to work within that scope in our country. And we do have a lot of people who are maybe, you know, you have an interest, you help out in a clinic, but you have never studied that.
Right. Yeah.
And so Galen University provides you that background. But when I think of
professionalize your degree.
Yes, but when I think of, you know, how we engage with animals, oftentimes you hear about, you know, violence towards animal cruelty, or maybe, you know, somebody left their horse tie up under a tree for too long, or, you know, should you chain your dogs or not? Yes, right. And that comes back to sort of the culture of people. And understanding how you're going to work with people. Because you could have laws, you know. You could have laws that speak to anything under the sun.
You said
but if you do not have, you know, people feel represented, just find a way to go around the laws.
How do anyone listening, the easiest way to get in touch with you? At the university, of course.
Absolutely.
Just
admissions.
go to your website, I guess.
Yes. If you're interested in admissions at galen.edu.bz. You can go to our website, galen.edu.bz. We are online. That will direct you. And we are on every social media platform. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so you can always reach us there. But that direct line is through our website. You did a great job this morning.
I mean, I could keep chatting with you now for a while. Ms. Sylvia Batty, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And showing that, like you said, you have a degree from Galen.
From Galen.
And you proved it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take a break, folks, and we'll be back shortly with more here on the morning.